It's live now, so whenever you're ready.
No worries. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the Almost Awesome podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Nicholson, joined alongside by Taryn Owens
Fuck Konami.
and Joe Lana.
Hey,
So I do apologize about how long it's been since our last episode. It's probably, like 6 months, maybe 3 years. I don't know. It's just been a busy blur for all of us. But in that amount of time, we've probably accumulated a lot of topic points. So if we get some time, we'll probably be pumping out some great episodes, hopefully. Plenty of good games have been released. Lots of, I don't know, controversy about lots of different topics, whether it's in the gaming world or not. But I might start this episode out with how we usually do. What's everyone been playing lately?
Taryn?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I honestly haven't been playing too much at all. I've been working on other small projects. I've played a lot of multiplayer, the League of Legends, the Hearthstone, that sort of thing. I went out and bought Dark Souls 2, one of the best games of last year today, so I can't wait to get back into that. Stuck into that. Been playing a bit of Persona 4 Golden, getting back into that one. Bloody JRPGs. That's about it. What about you, Joe?
um, the thing is, my 3-year-old son's been getting into gaming for the first time. Like, he's been playing on mobile devices quite a bit, but I managed to get a PlayStation controller into his hand, and he's totally addicted now to Sonic the Hedgehog,
Oh
which
God.
There you go.
it's
Growing up like a lot of kids. Yeah.
it's Sonic Generations, which I think is actually a pretty good one. There have been so many bad Sonic games, over the
Yeah.
past 10 years. But whenever they've been on sale, Sonic games, I've been looking them up and reading reviews, and I think this is actually a pretty good one. And he loves it, and he loves playing that together with me, and so that's really fun. When I'm by myself at the moment, I'm playing The Walking Dead Season 1, which I promised myself I would get to as soon as I finished Game of Thrones by Telltale. And that's really good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm on to episode 4, so almost finished with that. And then I'll probably play season 2.
Nice. What do you think of season 1 so far? 4 episodes in.
Yeah, really good. It it's one of those games that you feel like you're getting a lot of choice, and you make a decision and something happens, and you sort of think to yourself, did I cause that to happen, or was it always going to happen anyway? Certain characters die, or you make a choice between, say, character A or character B, and I don't know, because I'm on my first playthrough. I might never play it again. I might, once you've played a game like that, I think the way I felt when I played Heavy Rain was I tried to go back and see how some other things played out, and it just didn't feel right to me. I was like, no, this isn't, like, even if I got a different ending, it wouldn't feel. I would feel like that's not my story. That's not the
Yeah.
way it really happened. And the way it happens the first time is the way that it really happens for you.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, go on.
I was just agreeing.
Yeah, so I mean, there are certain characters who've died, and I'm like, shit, was that always going to happen, or am I supposed to feel bad for choosing someone over someone else? Have you played that game, Sam?
I have, yeah. I finished season 1 pretty much as soon as it came out because at that point in time I was a huge fan of the show and I was just getting into the comics, so it's sort of natural for me to pick it up. And I was playing it and it really blew me away because I hadn't really played anything like that before. So I don't know. I found it really interesting how much your decisions you made affected what happened in the game. But I think, is your experience with it different because you've played a Telltale game that runs similar before, like Game of Thrones? So is your experience sort of lesser than other people's might have been? Because that was Telltale's first huge game. All they had before that was Back to the Future, I think, which no one played. So knowing how a Telltale game played and what you might be able to expect, do you think your experience with season 1 is different compared to everyone else who would have played it, from day one?
Yeah, I don't know. Certainly, if you played Walking Dead season 1 not knowing what to expect, then I imagine it would have blown you away more. I've had, it's been out for 3 years, I think, and so I've heard all about it. No, I haven't heard any spoilers, which is amazing. But
Wow.
yeah, so I was pretty lucky there, I guess. But knowing like that people had reacted so positively towards it, I was going into it with a lot of expectation, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. You know, it's obviously very story based, but I think it's better than Game of Thrones. So having come from playing Game of Thrones first and then going to this, I think, you know, it doesn't feel like I'm going 3 years backwards.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you were talking before the show how you think it actually runs better than Game of Thrones and the more recent Telltale games.
Yeah, well, like you said, Walking Dead was the game that launched Telltale into the stratosphere,
Yep.
and since then they've taken on so many projects. They've done, you know, Walking Dead season 2, Wolf Among Us, Game of Thrones, Tales from the Borderlands. Is there any I've forgotten?
I don't think so. Oh,
And that's
Minecraft
all in,
story mode?
yeah,
Yes, the new
Minecraft,
Minecraft.
and that's all in 3 years.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. And also the thing about Telltale is people complain about the engine, and I do think that that's right that people complain about the engine because an engine should work. The minimum you expect is that it should run properly.
Certainly.
Even if the graphics are not particularly good or the physics are slightly off, the first thing is it should run properly. But the thing you have to remember about Telltale is that they release their games on everything, and that's not an excuse. But I don't know. It must be difficult to build an engine that can do all of the things that all of those games require and run on everything.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
So yeah, I mean, it really sticks out really quite badly when I was playing Game of Thrones, the last episode. There was a moment when it said, you know how the combat works in those games. It will say something like, move the right stick to the right in order to dodge out of the way or something like that.
Yep.
And it came up on the screen. It said swipe to the right. So it was obviously some text that was meant for mobile devices.
Yeah.
And I've seen other people upload screenshots where it says press Y, the Y button or something from an Xbox controller, and that was them playing on a PS4.
Yeah.
And so they're obviously, you know, rushing these games out and not optimizing fully for the device that they're actually intended for, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they're releasing their games on that many devices, and especially the fact that they have to release it on mobile would really hold it back, I think. But
Yeah.
you have to think how good a Telltale game could be if they didn't have so many IPs that they're making games for in such a period of time. If they focused on one for maybe a 2-year development cycle and made it a proper full-length game, not release it episodic, how good that game could actually be if they focus on doubling down on their engine, only releasing it on maybe consoles and PC, so it's not held back by mobile. They could actually make something really quality, I think, but
It would be as good
they've
as-
just wasted
as
their
good as-
resources.
Sorry, say that again. The last bit.
Oh, I was just saying they've just wasted their resources with so many
Yeah.
IPs and releasing it on so many devices.
I was just going to say it would be as good as something like Heavy Rain or Until Dawn.
Definitely.
I've
I don't
not
know,
played Until Dawn, but I've heard people raving about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's the amount of IPs they have. I think it's more the fact that they're releasing it on so many different devices. I mean, I've done little bits of development for just simply mobile here and there, and getting something to work on Android and Apple, like just between the two, is difficult enough. Getting it to run on a bunch of different Android devices is difficult enough. I think what they need to do is give up the mobile and focus on, however many IPs they have, and release an episode for something each month. So have, 1 month they'll release, or even every 2 weeks, release an episode for one thing and have it set in a set schedule so that, every fortnight they'll release one episode of Game of Thrones, and the next fortnight they'll release an episode of The Walking Dead, and the next fortnight they do the next one, and it just goes on like that, so that it's sort of, you can expect when you're going to get the next episode.
You could do that, but I think at the same time that takes up a lot of time for them to be releasing an episode for lots of different IPs every 2 weeks. Because you think about it, that they have to put in voice work for each IP, and there's obviously different people doing voice work for every single one, so that's going to take up a lot of time recording that and then animating that and all that sort of stuff, and also writing the stories for them all.
I think they
they're
have that
split
all
up.
done though. I think they have
Yeah,
that all done before they
the,
release all the episodes, any of the
yeah,
episodes.
the story writing must be done beforehand, and then
Oh, certainly.
all of the voice work or any if there's any motion capture, then they'll do all of that beforehand, and then actually building the episode and optimizing it all for each device that will come last.
No, even then, I think all that would be done before the episodic. I think they just do the episodic because that's just how they do their games. I honestly think 90% of it is finished before they even release the first episode.
So then, why did it take so long for episode 6 of Game of Thrones to come?
That's right.
Because
Or episodes between. It was season 1, maybe season 2 of The Walking Dead. I don't know. They were months and months in between.
I don't know. I wait till the end of Telltale Games to buy it now, but I guess that probably comes back on the amount of different IPs they have. So
I'm just looking at the release schedule of Game of Thrones.
yeah,
First episode was beginning of December last year, and they managed to get the fifth episode out by July. So that was like one every 6 weeks or so. But then episode 6 didn't come until November, so it was just a few days off being 4 months between episode 5 and episode 6.
Yeah. But in that same time, how many different things have they been developing for, I suppose, and things getting set in motion, like, this new Batman IP that's coming out. But I don't know, if I was at the helm of Telltale, I think I'd like to probably focus on one IP at any given time and make that a long, good game, double down on the engine and stuff like that. And, release a full-length sort of feature game per IP, I think, because of the IPs they do, they're fantastic, and I think they each deserve, awesome treatment, I suppose, not sort of, be working on one IP while also, touching up another one and sort of spreading out their workload. I think they should probably focus on one thing at a time. But what you said, Taryn, would also be great if you're a Telltale fan and you're not just interested in one IP. If you're just getting a constant sort of stream of games in all the time, even though it's different IPs, like you said, every 2 weeks you're getting something new. That'd also be really cool. But I'm not sure if it'd be as quality as it could be.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something they have to work on. But with the amount of IP they've got, the fan following they have, they're gonna figure it out, and they're gonna keep making good games. Especially the Batman. Was it the Batman one they announced at the Game Awards?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was.
Go on.
Oh yeah, I just said yeah, it was Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the major announcements at the Game Awards. I think it was very interesting to see that they're doing that as well as the Marvel one. But I'm pretty sure there was another major event on that week as well, wasn't there?
I believe that was PSX. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And there was a certain game that was also split into episodes, just like Telltale that we've just been talking about. Final Fantasy VII, reported to be an episodic title, was probably one of the biggest announcements at PSX. What do we think of that? Are you guys Final Fantasy fans at all? How do you think you'd take it?
Final Fantasy VII was I think the first JRPG I ever played. Back in the late 90s, and I loved that game so much. I'm not sure if I ever actually finished it because, yeah, it's a big game. But the Final Fantasy franchise never recaptured that magic again for me. But Final Fantasy VII is something special.
Yeah, I mean, I try to get into the Final Fantasy games, but I don't know. For me, it's a typical JRPG sort of thing, They're just so big that once you start, you get to a point where it's sort of like I'll stop playing one for several weeks or months, and then you've got to start the whole thing again because you forgot where you were at. So I've never actually beaten a Final Fantasy game, but there's something I'm majorly into it, and this episodic thing is something it kind of turned me off, to be honest. What about you, Sam?
I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games except for that Final Fantasy Dissidia, I think it was called, on PSP, because that looked like a really cool fighting game, and it turned out to be an awesome fighting game. But I don't know, this Final Fantasy VII remake is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like a bit of a remaster, tidy it up a little bit, put it on PS4, which they've already done. I didn't even know they were going to do that. They've just put the sort of more original version on PS4, but I didn't know it was like a fully fledged remake of the game. Like when I saw the gameplay trailer, I watched it. It just popped up on my Facebook newsfeed the other day. I was like, wow, this actually looks really cool. It's something I'd consider playing if it wasn't going to be episodic. I feel like I'd probably play the first episode and never come back to it again. When the second episode comes out and stuff like that. And especially people who, the hardcore fans who really wanted it, they've probably played the game, tons and tons of times, and they just used to playing it as one thing, not split up. So it'd probably feel very strange for them to, play a portion of the game and then have to wait again. And God knows how long they'll be waiting because there's that much that Square is doing right now. So yeah, and also, how much do you think they're going to be paying per episode? Do you think you'd end up paying more than what a full game is worth, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've said that each episode will be a full game's worth of content, and so I mean, you can think of it as episodic, or you can think of it as them saying, "Well, we're gonna make Final Fantasy VII remake, and then we're gonna make Final Fantasy VII 2 remake and Final Fantasy VII 3 remake, if you like." It's basically saying we're going to make a sequel to this, and then we're going to make another sequel. I think each game is going to be, each episode is going to be that big, and it wouldn't surprise me if each episode was a full price, like $60 American, or maybe a bit less, maybe $40 American. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Okay, so you think they're not just going to split the original into 3, they're going to make sequels? Is that your point, or?
Well, there are other Final Fantasy VII games like Crisis Core on the PSP, which I never played, but that was a very well-received game, I believe. It was a lot of people's favourite PSP game. A lot of people preferred it over Final Fantasy VII, I think.
Okay.
And I think that what they'll do is they'll take all of that story and all of that lore and everything Final Fantasy VII. There was a film also, wasn't there? Advent Children or something.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
I don't know if that's something that they can take and put that into the new game also. So they could expand. It's a remake and expand it and make it much bigger than the original was. And the original wasn't it like a 120-hour game or something?
Something like that, yeah. If not bigger.
So they could expand it and make it into 3, full price games if they wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really dependent on how they do it. Like JRPGs are naturally, 120, 130-hour games, which honestly I think turns quite a few people off. Very few people have, that much time to sink into one game, especially with, games like The Witcher 3 and so many good games coming out lately. If they split it up the right way and separate it so that there's enough content in each one with enough of a gap in between, I think they'll end up getting more sales than we seem to think they will. But that's just me. What about you?
I don't know. I've never played a JRPG, like, I've touched them, but like I've never set out to play one from start to finish or anything like that. I've just played it like a friend's house or something like that. And it's not something I personally would want to sink a lot of time into. And like, that much time, I don't have 120 hours to sink into one game. And I think that's the way that the gaming industry is going for a lot of the consumers. Because now, like back then when it was released, from what it seems to me, there wasn't as much to play. There wasn't as much of a library for people to touch, so you have your Final Fantasy VII, that's got you set for ages until maybe the next game comes out. Months and months later, like the next sort of big game. Whereas now, every year, people, especially me, I never really even end up finishing a game until, a couple of years after it's come out when I come back to it, because there's that many things for me to move my time into, and I have less hours to do it as well. And I think that's probably true for most average gamers these days. So in saying that, a lot of people, they might buy the game because they might have played it when they're little, but I don't know how many people end up finishing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go off topic here a little bit. Do you think that that's the reason these smaller indie games like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Bastion, all these sort of 3 to 4 hour experiences are just becoming like the big phenomenon everywhere? because people just don't have the time to play these epic Witcher 3 like games. They turn to these small ones where they can get a full story in 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, that, and because those indie games tend to, they tend to use simpler mechanics and simpler graphical styles.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like Bastion, for example, not so much. What do you say, Vanishing of Ethan Carter?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that a realistic looking game?
Yeah, that Vanishing of Ethan Carter's what we call walking simulator. It's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much just got the graphics and yeah, it looks realistic.
So not so much that kind of game, but I'm thinking about games like the side scrollers and shooters that we were getting on Vita and things like that. I think that those bring out a lot of nostalgia for people from 20 years ago.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that and the short time period, and yeah, gamers as a whole are definitely older than they used to be. I mean, as a group, not individuals, of course.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that I can sit down and play Gone Home or, some other, actually I've only played that once, but, like some other smaller indie game and I only have to sink a couple of hours into it and I get the full experience, and generally it's still a satisfying experience. I think that's a lot better than looking at 120 hours into The Witcher 3 or into, Final Fantasy 7. Admittedly, I am trying to get through The Witcher 3 right now, but it's just like such a big game. I find it very daunting and like I have to sink a lot of time into it, which kind of takes away a bit of the fun.
Yeah, it's like,
Whereas, yeah, when there's so much more to do, see, my favorite kind of games is something that's very linear, and sure, it could take a fair few hours, but there's not too much to do. It doesn't feel too big or daunting. Something like, say, Mass Effect 2 or The Last of Us or something like that, or even Uncharted. I find that much more appealing because it doesn't feel like as much of a time sink or a grind, and it sounds like Final Fantasy VII is the total opposite.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree. I'm always relieved when someone says that a game is short. That
Yeah.
makes me a lot more likely to actually play it. I've got a lot of games that I've never even touched because I'm just think, oh, just the idea of starting it is like, oh, do I really want to, get into this?
Yep. That's my entire Steam library, 500 games and counting.
Wow.
But you just mentioned Uncharted 4, and we learned at the start of PSX there that their Uncharted 4 is actually going to have branching dialogue options. I haven't played the first three, but Sam, you've played the first three, I believe?
I've played the first two, and only in the Uncharted collection. I'm about to start the third one, but at the moment I'm too busy with The Witcher and Battlefront. But
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think of the dialogue options?
I think it's cool, but I definitely don't think it's needed. I think part of the magic of playing Uncharted is that you don't have a whole lot to do with it. You can sort of just sit back, relax, and let the whole thing unfold itself instead of deciding what to say. Like in Fallout, you sort of drive it yourself. You have to be invested and, make decisions, stuff like that. Whereas with Uncharted, it's more like a movie, and I think that's what it should be, where you can just sit back and watch it unfold itself, and you don't have to invest any thoughts into it or whatever. It's a lazy game to play sort of thing. Like you can just sort of sit back and enjoy it. And adding dialogue options in takes away a bit of what Uncharted was for me. I still think it's cool. I'm definitely going to play the game because the first two so far are sensational. But I don't know. It's not going to be game breaking, but I kind of wish they didn't do it personally.
I think it will be a lot have a lot less of an impact than perhaps you guys are thinking. It will. Taron, you introduced it as you said it was branching dialogue, like
Yeah.
as though if you select option one, then that will send the conversation in a different direction than if you select option two or option three. And I didn't see it that way. It was literally, Nathan is talking to his brother, and his brother, is it Sam? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He says to him, "Oh, tell me about what you've been doing." And Nathan says, "Oh, where do I start?" And I think Sam says to him, "We'll start with the best bit." And then you've got three options, and the options are basically it's what you did in Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, and Uncharted 3. So you're basically choosing which adventure you thought was the most fun. And then he'll tell about that. And I think it faded to black, and then it came back in again at the end of the conversation. So it had a very small impact on what you saw. And I don't think it will send the conversation off in different directions. And I definitely don't think that it will have a big effect on the game that you play. I don't think it will be like that they'll say, where do you want to go, and then you choose you want to go to this country or that country, and then you play a different level. I definitely don't think that will happen. They might say something like, do you want to take these guys out stealthily, or do you want to go in guns blazing? Maybe like that, but I don't think it will be. It will still be a linear experience, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it won't. I don't think it'll go the sort of way Telltale went, where it. I think one of my favorite YouTubers describes it as sort of a diamond, where it expands to the point where you've got so many options, and then eventually it ends up coming back together, and you have the same ending no matter what.
Yeah.
It looks like from what I saw in the trailer. I mean, we didn't see too much of it in the trailer, but from what it looks like, it's going to be very minor things that modify the dialogue slightly here and there. But
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know. We'll have to see what happens with that.
I hope
think
it's.
it'll-
Oh, sorry. I hope it's going to go the way that you guys are saying. It probably will, most likely. Naughty Dog's not going to make it like a whole sort of Mass Effect thing or Telltale thing where it's like this character will remember that or something like that. But at the same time, what I really like about playing through Uncharted is I can just sit back there and listen to the characters, and with especially the writing, with the dialogue, sometimes it's really witty. Sully will come up with something funny, or Nate will, and you sort of have nothing to do with it. It can sort of surprise you sometimes. Whereas if I'm choosing what I want Nate to say, I can sort of predict where a conversation is going, maybe. But at the same time, it's still definitely going to be an Uncharted game by the looks of things, and I still really want to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Naughty Dog's not a stupid developer. They know they've got. Well, we haven't seen them develop a bad game, I don't think. So they know what they're doing. So, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait for the game to come out. It comes out next year,
Yep.
unless it gets
Yeah.
delayed.
March.
Early next year, yeah.
Yeah, but something else that's meant to come out next year, and we heard quite a lot about, was PlayStation VR. What do you guys think of VR in general?
Yeah, I'm really excited about VR. It's I've been looking forward to something like that happening since I was a boy, 20 years ago or something like that. So
Since the Virtual Boy was an absolute screw.
since the Virtual
Virtual
Boy.
Boy.
No, the Virtual Boy completely passed me by. I'd never even. I don't know if I knew about it and then completely forgot, or when Morpheus was first announced last year, I think it was. People were saying, "Oh, it's another Virtual Boy," and remember the Virtual Boy? It was so bad, and I had to do some googling and actually find out what this Virtual Boy was, because I had no idea what people were talking about, and yeah, that looked awful. I can imagine trying to use that and just feeling sick from you know from the poor graphics and the monochrome color scheme, and it just looked awful. And I've talked to friends of mine about, are you excited about PSVR? And he said, no, it's just going to be another Virtual Boy. We're not there yet. We don't have good enough graphics yet. And I was just thinking, I don't understand how someone, this guy's got a PS4 and he plays these amazing almost photorealistic games, and I just don't understand how he can think that we're somehow not there yet. I was listening to at PSX, there was a panel about the future of games and VR, and they were talking about how it's not that important that the graphics in VR are realistic. They don't have to be realistic. They just have to be believable, but that's different from realistic. And he was giving an example. I think it was a guy from Media Molecule. He was saying you could put someone in VR and you can have them. They're just standing there, and there's this cube floating in front of them, and that will be a lot more compelling to the player than if it's something every day. If it's something realistic and people walking around. Whereas if there's a cube just floating in front of you, you're immediately intrigued. And how is this cube floating by itself? And I've never seen anything like that before. And it tricks your brain into believing it rather than thinking that it's real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually a really cool point. I didn't watch that panel. But I'm someone who's personally not that keen for VR. I don't know. I'm a man of simple tastes. I just like my TV and my controller. I don't really get too immersed. It's just going to be another expensive bit of gear to put on top of what I've already got. And I'm afraid it's going to be really gimmicky as well. Like, I don't know how many studios are going to develop for it and how to experience with it. For example, like PlayStation Move, that was a cool idea, I suppose, but look how poorly it was executed. It was just a gimmick. Or say the Wii's motion controls. That was a cool idea as well, but it wasn't really executed well at the same time. Any innovations aren't really too great from the get-go. I don't know. I just sort of prefer sitting there with my controller, but some experiences would be, absolutely sensational in VR. What would really intrigue me is, say, like an Elder Scrolls game in VR. Like, that's the sort of game that I would really be down to play. Playing, like, being in Skyrim, in first person with it right in front of me instead of on a monitor, I think I'd be way more immersed than anything else. But, I don't know, VR doesn't really have my interests.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't wait for it to come out, but you brought up a point there about, it just being a gimmick like the Wii U or the, what was the other one? I can't remember what you said.
PlayStation
The
Move.
Move, that's the one. But the other point you brought up there about the developer support, they've actually got quite a lot of developer support already. They've got a lot of their first parties. Of course, they've got Media Molecule. Double Fine announced that there's going to be a Psychonauts 2 prequel coming to VR. So there's obviously quite a lot of support for it already. So
Ubisoft are making something that was shown at PSX, where you're flying as an eagle.
okay,
Have you guys seen it?
I haven't seen that. Have you seen the Warcraft one?
No.
It's on YouTube. Essentially, you're just flying through the Warcraft world, and you can look around, and you just see the entire. It was just a video based on the movie. I think it was a trailer for the movie, but it was done in a VR setting, and it was glorious.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with VR, especially with so many of them coming out. You've got PlayStation, you've got Oculus Rift, you've got the Samsung one, which is out now, but that doesn't really count. You've got HoloLens coming eventually.
Yeah, but with what you're talking about, like say this eagle thing or flying through the Warcraft world, they're sort of more experiences than games, and I feel like that's probably more. We're going to get more of that out of VR than probably fully fledged games. For example, like a roller coaster simulator or something like that, they might pay like $1.50 to play or something like that. I don't know. I feel like that'd be more suited to VR than being able to develop full games, because VR, it limits you to either first-person peripherals, or you can't do as much as you can with like a monitor and controller sort of thing. A lot of things just wouldn't make sense with VR. Otherwise, it'd just be a TV over your eyes instead of an experience like you're walking in someone's shoes and looking around and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like it would be more of an experience machine than a game machine.
I think the thing that really, really, really does make sense with VR is anything where you are driving any kind of vehicle.
Yeah.
And so that's driving games, I think, will be amazing in VR. If you are sitting in a chair and you've got a steering wheel and pedals, and even more so if you've got a gear stick and you've got your PlayStation VR and you can look around inside the car, and you can look over your shoulder, and you can you'll be able to when you're coming into a corner, look to your side and see a car there, so you can plan your going into the corner or moving away from driving. Have you seen the videos for rigs?
No.
No. Okay, you guys need to see that on YouTube or whatever. Just look for rigs, which is it's sort of like a first-person shooter, but you're in a mech, and so you're piloting this mech. And Sam, I think you would like this because it's not using Move controllers; it's using your normal DualShock controller, and the controls for the mech inside the cockpit are, I think, just like a DualShock controller, so that the buttons are familiar to you, and you're jumping around in this arena and shooting other mech. And I think there's some interesting game modes and stuff like that. I think you should have a look at that. And then the other thing is anything like where you're a pilot of a plane. I think that there's obviously No Man's Sky, which I don't think it's been officially announced as a VR game, but I'm pretty sure it will
definitely be VR.
And then the other thing that they announced at PSX was Ace Combat, which is obviously a combat fighter, dogfighting type thing, and I think that would be pretty amazing in the VR as well. And these are full
Yeah,
games
for sure.
that 100% make sense in VR. The thing that worries me about VR, like if you're playing any kind of first-person game, is how do you like when you're walking along and you turn around? Does that mean that you turn around in real life so that your back is facing, where like let's say with the PlayStation VR, let's say you're playing in front of a TV because the TV can show what you're seeing so that other people can see what you're doing in the game. They call it a social screen. So let's say you're facing the TV, even though you can't see it, and then in the game you turn around so your back is facing the TV. Then what? You're facing that way until you turn around again, or I mean, are the wires going to get tangled around your body if you do a 360-degree turn? I'm not sure I
Yeah.
fully understand how the controls are going to work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather not be walking around my room, that's for sure.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
how much do you think we'll be paying for something like this?
For the console or for the games? Or the headset or the games?
Mostly the headset. How much do you think the hardware is going to be?
I think they've said it's going to be comparable to a console. So I think you're looking at about 300 or 400 American dollars, and when that comes to
Yeah.
Europe, it will be 300 or 400 euros, or 300 or 400
Yeah.
pounds, because that's just how it works. And then I don't know about you guys in Australia. Australia tend to convert.
It'll end up being, $40,000 or whatever they decide to price that over here.
$40,000 ruse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're changing our currency now to dollary dues. I
Dollary
believe.
dues, that one.
But
Yep.
even with all this stuff, like the mech sort of thing you were talking about, Joe, that sounds really interesting. But how do you think they'll monetize it? Do you think they'll put like DLC, as in like different sort of skins or better weapons, or do you think the microtransaction culture will follow over to VR, or do you think it'll
Definitely.
sort of be changed and go
I,
back to the way
definitely,
it was?
I think microtransactions will never go away because it's like free money for the developers and the publishers. Why
Yeah,
would they take that away? If people are willing to pay for cosmetic changes for their character or whatever, then why not?
yeah, for sure.
Are
But
people
it's
really? Oh, sorry, you
go,
go.
go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, are people really that willing, or are they just doing it because sometimes that's their only option? I mean, you go on forums and stuff like that, and people only ever complain about microtransactions. Then, obviously, inside games, it reflects differently. You see people buying microtransactions all the time. Like, for example, in FIFA, the Ultimate Team mode is the most popular game type, and with that, you've got to buy your players or buy packs and take a gamble that you're going to get a good player for your team, and that all costs money. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if the microtransaction culture will stick around as much as it is now because I think too many people have a problem with it, especially with something like pay to win, all that sort
Mm.
of stuff, which Ultimate Team in FIFA. I don't know. I'm happy if it's for purely aesthetic stuff in games, where it's not going to give you an edge over competition if it's multiplayer or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think the sort of microtransaction stuff in some games, particularly EA games, is getting a little bit out of hand.
Yeah, I assume you're referring to, the season pass in Battlefront, which is more expensive than the actual game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the season pass here in Australia is $70 or $80, and that's for DLC that we know nothing about. So you're paying for a product that you know absolutely nothing about.
You don't have to buy it now.
There's no DLCs that isn't free. That wasn't already announced. Yeah, you have to buy it. So you buy the season pass now, and DLC that comes out, I think tomorrow, isn't included. That's free. But then after then, we don't know about any DLC at all.
Yeah,
And
but you don't
we're
have to
paying
buy
for
the
that.
season pass now, do you?
So you can buy it at any time, and that entitles you to all the DLC. But it is for sale now, yeah, and people are buying it. And I don't
Yeah.
quite understand when you don't know what the DLC is going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I've never understood pre-ordering of any kind. Well, not never. I mean, it used to be necessary when, before the digital age and there were only physical copies of games, and if you were worried that your local shop wasn't going to have one, then you pre-order one, to make sure that you get your copy. But that's just not necessary anymore, and so I don't understand why people pre-order. I think I hope that people stop pre-ordering soon. I think that they will. I think people will learn, and then what I imagine will start happening is that um, games will be cheaper if you pre-order them. There'll be a discount, like a pre-order discount, and so then that will cause pre-ordering again. But at least you're getting something for it.
Yeah, that sort of thing's already happening on PC with
Yeah,
a lot of
okay.
Steam games. If you pre-order, you get like 10% off, or I think the last Tomb Raider that was on PC, you got a 10% discount for pre-ordering, as well as in-game weapons, as well as the other Tomb Raider game. I think it was the Temple of Osiris.
Mm.
So you're pre-ordering it, but you're actually getting benefits for it, unlike uh, pre-ordering things like season passes where you get nothing. Essentially you pay more because by the time all the DLC's out, the season pass would probably have already been on sale for 25,
Exactly.
30% off.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know, like, to what point are we paying? Like, so yeah, for example, we're paying full price for the base game. So at what point are we paying too much for extras of the game? Like with Battlefront, you're effectively paying the game over all over again. Like, how much content do you need to justify that? And then, except people just still lap it right up, which means it'll never go away.
Yeah. Well, as long as people keep buying it, it definitely won't go away. But I feel that we've heard this kind of thing a lot from YouTubers or people that you listen to about. I'm talking about Colin Moriarty, who used to work for IGN and now he's off doing his own thing. But he talks a lot about how games are cheaper than they've ever been especially when you consider inflation, and how games used to be over $100 in America, and now they're only $60. And because of inflation, those dollars are worth less than they used to be, and so it's kind of crazy. Especially game development is so much more expensive than it used to be as well. So something's got to give here, and I think that games are too cheap at the moment. And so, for one thing, I think that publishers are entitled to charge whatever they want for a game. EA could have just come out and said, here's Battlefront, it costs 110 US dollars, which is what it costs if you buy the game and the season pass. They could have just come out and said, the game is $110, that's what it costs, and you get everything included. But what they've offered you is they said, look, you can have the core experience, the base game, and it is a full game and you can play it, and there's not, okay, you could say there's content locked out or whatever, but it is a full game that you can enjoy and you can have fun with, and you can have that for $60, and then you can get the rest of it for $50 if you want to. I think it's good that they've offered that option, and like Taran said, it will go on sale at some point. And what's going to happen in the future is that there's going to be used copies of this game going around for $40, $30, $20, $10, and those people, if they buy it, they will still have to buy the season pass. And I think that's a good thing, because I think it's a shame when people go and buy a used copy of the game for a fraction of the full price, and the creators don't see any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I buy quite a lot of my console games pre-owned just because, it's a hell of a lot cheaper over here. But I don't know. I don't know what I think about the DLC. I think, would you prefer a game to cost $110 and there to be no DLC, everything unlocked completely? Or do you prefer it the way it is now, where, you can buy something for $60
Yeah.
and then sort of
I think
add
it's good
bits
that-
and pieces to it?
I think it's good that people can choose what they want, and they can pay for the things that they want and not pay for the things that they don't want. It might be
Yeah.
that someone doesn't have $110, but they want to play Battlefront. They'd be happy with the base game, and they don't need all the extra maps or whatever is in the season pass.
Yeah,
So I
but
think it's
see,
good that people have the option.
yeah, I'll bring up another question though. Do you think is Battlefront actually a full game? I mean, from what I've heard, they've taken out the single player, so essentially it's only multiplayer. Is that like just giving people now half a game?
Well, the way I look at it is giving someone just a single player game, giving someone a full game. I would argue that both, if it's just multiplayer or just single player, it's still a full game if that's what's intended. I mean, if not in some cases, especially a game like Call of Duty or something, people are going to get more hours out of only multiplayer than a single player anyway. Or especially if you're going to look at DICE specifically, multiplayer. No one plays DICE's single player game, like components of games. I think resources probably would have been wasted on a single player for Battlefront. And Battlefront, because originally it was a multiplayer orientated game anyway, if they focused everything just on multiplayer like they have, it's going to be better off in the long run.
Yeah, but see,
That's sort of what I always tell people. Yeah. Sorry?
Yeah, they've taken the single player out without replacing it with anything. At least with single player oriented games, they take out multiplayer, but they replace it with more content for the same within the base game. Whereas multiplayer only games like Titanfall, like Evolve, which let's never speak of that again,
Yeah.
like Battlefront, all these sort of things, they've taken the single player out, but given you just a generic shooter that we're all used to. There's no new mechanics. There's nothing new there.
Sam,
Yeah.
what do you think about Black Ops 3 on last gen? It's multiplayer only, isn't that right?
It is, yeah. But
What do you think about that? Because I was surprised that was full price.
oh, definitely, it shouldn't be full price that game.
Well,
Except
was it
actually
full-
with Star Wars' with Battlefront's case, right from the get-go, DICE said that there wasn't going to be a single player anyway. So I'm not quite sure where you heard that it was taken out is the only thing.
No, not from this game. Like it wasn't actually taken out, but as in they're removing single player elements from games where we used to have single player. Like you used to get single player and multiplayer
Right.
experience in the one game. But the single player
Oh,
component's been taken out, but nothing's been replaced in return for it. You know what I mean? So essentially you're paying
Yeah.
the same price you paid 10 years ago for a lesser product.
Well,
Similar to how a lot of developers are taking out couch co-op or couch
Yeah.
competitive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really irritates me, the whole couch co-op thing. But actually, with the Battlefront games, the originals, the first two, the campaign, for example, in Battlefront 2 is exactly the same as what they're calling the single player in the recent Battlefront, which is basically just missions, missions that don't really have a whole lot of story context or anything like that, which you can do by yourself on the new Battlefront. I mean, the campaigns in the original Battlefronts were actually really poor, had pretty much no story to them as well, and basically the same as what we're getting now. I don't know, like I think it's better without the single player in that specific case, but in Black Ops 3's case, where there's a fully fledged good single player there to be had on current gen, and that's just completely neglected for last gen, I don't think that's justifiable at all.
Yeah, I mean, DLC, it's obviously something that's not going away, but let's just talk about probably the biggest culprit here for a minute. With the Disney Infinity, the new Lego game, and the Skylanders. I think these are probably the worst offenders for DLC. I mean, I watched a video on the three of them a couple of days ago, and they played through the game to see how long it took before you got asked to go and buy a new character to unlock a certain part of the game. And it was, for all of them, it was only about 20 minutes before you were being told you need to go and buy a new character to play this part. Yeah.
How much of the game is there if you just buy the base game?
You've got the full campaign, but sort of, like the side doors that used to be, like the old Spyro games or the Crash Bandicoot games where you'd have certain portals.
Mhm.
You'd have all the portals and that. It's like locking those off and saying, you can't go through here unless you go and buy another $15 character.
Yeah, that's a total rip-off.
But yeah, the same video also did the maths on it as to how much it cost to actually unlock all the content in just one of these games. And for the three of them, it ranged from $600 to, I think, Star Wars. The Lego one was about $1,500 or something, $1,200–$1,300.
Is that American dollars or Australian dollars?
That's Australian dollars. So say between $500 and $1,000 in American dollars.
Yeah.
Which
I need to know about this stuff
Yeah.
because, like I said, I think I told you guys earlier, I've got a 3-year-old son, so he'll be probably interested in this stuff soon, and so I need to be prepared about this kind of stuff. So when you say go and buy a character, is that like you buy an actual Lego toy or an actual Disney action figure, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's the game somehow recognizes that?
Yeah, like the amiibos. They're like amiibos, but they unlock in-game content for a set game.
So would you be able to borrow something from a friend? Like if you split the cost with someone, would you be able to both use the same action figure to unlock something in
You could
both?
you could borrow it and then you could play with that part, but once you take it off, that part's locked again. You have to have that one on the portal to play that part.
But that's interesting because that's like DLC that you can lend to someone.
Sort of.
Because digital games you can't lend, of course.
Yeah. Oh, PC games you kind of can, sort of now.
Oh right.
But yeah, when you put it that way, it kind of makes it. Still doesn't justify the cost by any
No,
means.
it doesn't. It doesn't. But isn't the point of it not that you buy every single character, but more that you buy the characters that you like?
Yeah, yeah, but
If you're going to buy your kid a toy anyway, then it's good that it unlocks an extra part in the game that you've got for them as well.
yeah, I think the problem though is it doesn't actually unlock a major part of the game. Like it'll unlock a small little racing part or something like that. When you
Right.
It
pay,
unlocks like say a 20 to 30 minute sort of mission or piece of the game is my understanding of it. I think they call them play sets or something like that. So you can buy like a play set that'll come with like 2 or 3 characters, and that'll
yeah,
unlock one section or like mission of the game, and then that's about all, and that'll cost you like $80 or something like that.
yeah.
But it means there must also be a used market for these things.
Oh, of course, yeah,
So
for
you can
sure.
get used games incredibly cheap. So presumably these DLC toys you could get them cheap second hand. Which the thing about DLC for digital DLC, normal DLC, is that the publisher can completely control the price of it because there is no used market.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Obviously, it still doesn't justify the price, but it makes a little more sense that considering it's for 6-year-old kids, if you're going to buy them something, you may as well get something out of it as well. You know.
Yeah,
But
I feel bad for the parents who don't understand any of this stuff.
oh, for sure.
Because it's one thing if you're an adult gamer and you've got your own money and there's a game comes out that you want and you think, well, it's a bit expensive, but I really want it, so I'll buy it. And then it's another thing if you've got a parent with a kid who sees an advert on television and just keeps pestering the parents, I want this toy, I want this toy, and that's really hard.
Yeah, for sure. But that's something that's definitely happening at this time of year. We've got all the trailers and hypes for games. I think the major one at the moment is all the hype for Star Wars Episode 7.
Woo!
Yeah, I really don't give two hoots. I haven't seen
Hey,
the first 6.
I didn't think you do, but man,
I
I'm
haven't seen the first
excited.
6.
Speaking of
Oh, it's disgusting.
speaking
I've
of
been
toys,
crucified.
speaking of toys and speaking of Star Wars, I've got to show you guys something. And Sam, I know you're gonna love this. But in addition to I've got a son who's 3. I've also got a daughter who's 1. And for her first birthday, she got a doll, which she plays with, and it's one of those dolls that you squeeze its tummy and it says something. And that got really annoying after a while, and you'll see why in a second. But we removed the speaker from it, and I just have to show you this. Right? It makes 3 sounds. So just listen to these 3 sounds and tell me what you think. So this is from my 1-year-old daughter's toy. This is sound number 1. You heard that?
Yep.
Yep.
Pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
This is sound number 2. That's pretty standard.
That sounds
tell me
like an
what you
evil
think.
clown.
Yeah, that
Well,
does sound kind of evil.
tell
But...
me- Tell me what you think of sound number 3.
What? Darth Vader, baby.
Supposed to be sleeping.
Oh man, that's
Force.
fantastic. How many times have you made that sound and been like, "I am your father"? Oh man, I would. I'd have so much fun with that.
So we took that out of the doll, but I kept this little speaker because, that's pretty funny.
Oh, that's
Oh.
fantastic.
That's great.
So you were going to talk about Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Not just Star Wars, but just in general. Do you think this sort of the amount of hype and all the trailers shown, 3-4 years before things come out, do you think it takes away from the said product when it actually comes out? Like, do you think all of these hype videos for episode 7, when it comes out, it's going to be an absolute disappointment and no one's going to enjoy it?
Well, I tend to look at these things kind of cynically, and I think to myself, well, you know what? They've got a marketing department, and it's the marketing department's job to try and get as many people to come and see the film as possible. And if they were really spoiling the film, and if people who were seeing the trailers really thought, okay, this film is now ruined for me, there's no point in me going to see it, then they wouldn't go and see it. And that's obviously not what happens because, you know, Star Wars The Force Awakens is gonna break all kinds of records. I mean,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'll be shocked if it doesn't. And so there are obviously, and I'm pretty sure most of the people going to see it have seen at least one trailer, if not more. And even if they say, oh, the film has been spoiled now, it hasn't been spoiled. People use the term spoiler way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think that the film has been spoiled, or people say, "Oh, the entire plot of the film is in the trailer," well, then don't go and see it. But people
Yeah.
aren't going to not go and see it. It's like with the DLC. You know, people will complain, but then they'll go and buy it anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't referring more to spoilers. I mean, sort of, like, trailers are there to try and get you hyped up and make you want to go see it. But then, do you think with these sort of things, when people actually go and see it, do you think, because they're going in with such high expectations, do you think it's going to disappoint them and they're going to come out thinking, oh, well, that was meh?
Definitely. So, I mean, that's something I'm afraid of because if you were to put yourself in my shoes, being a massive Star Wars fan my entire life, you know, got like those little Star Wars pop figures like sitting on my PlayStation and all that kind of stuff. Damn it, Robo Sam.
We have RoboSam.
Robo Sam.
Yes, you're worse, RoboSam. You
Yeah.
sound like RoboCop, but worse and
God damn it. I'm gonna leave and come back in.
Okay.
Yeah, but what about you, Joe? I assume you're going to go and see episode 7.
Yeah, I am having 2 small kids, so I need to time it with when we can get them looked after. But luckily, it's coming into Christmas, so we're going to my wife's family, and so they can look after the kids on Christmas Day. Actually, I think we'll probably go and see it because here in mainland Europe, we celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. So
Oh, that's cool.
Christmas Day is a relaxing day or whatever. So we'll leave the kids with the grandparents and go and watch it.
Yeah. But speaking of hype, do you think Christmas is overhyped for children? Like, they have all these plans and they want all these things, and they get to the point where it's like, oh, you only got me a blanket and stuff.
Yeah, well, my kids are not old enough for that yet. My son is 3. He'll turn 4 in January. So luckily, he's not quite old enough to be, demanding everything just yet. It's actually quite difficult to sit him down and ask him what he wants for Christmas. And if we ask him what he wants, then he's more likely to say something that he already has that he enjoys playing with.
Yeah.
And we say, no, don't you want something new? And so we have to tease that out of him. So it's not that bad yet. But
Yeah.
it's awful. I think the way that kids get targeted by advertising. But what are you
Yeah.
gonna do, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about time we wrap things up. You guys agree?
We're not waiting for Sam to come back.
Sam's in here somewhere.
All right.
Can you hear us, Sam? Nope.
No, the gears.
He's here. Is he in here? Oh no, he's just dropped out again. Okay. Well, this is awkward. Bloody Australian internet. It's just one more bad thing we have. One terrible thing after another over here.
But talking about the trailers, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit out of the loop, but I was quite surprised at the reaction to the Batman versus Superman trailer, and everyone was complaining about how it had spoiled the entire film, and people were upset that they'd found out who the villain was. And I don't know, like I said, maybe I'm out of the loop, but isn't it pretty normal going into a film that you know who the villain is?
Yeah, I would imagine so. You know, you go into the movie, you know who the main characters are, who the villain is, and what's going on, so that when
Yeah,
you
you
get in
generally
there,
know what the story is.
because they only have 90 minutes to 2 hours to go through the whole story in the movie.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's like they can't spend, well, the bad movies spend most of that time going through everything. But, knowing all that sort of stuff before you go in allows better movies, I would imagine. And do we have a Sam back?
We do have a Sam back, but is he still robotic?
We have a better
No,
Sam back.
sound good.
Woo! God damn it! We start talking about Star Wars, and that's when I drop out. Like of all times.
Do you have anything to add to that one about
I
the
missed
hype
the
of Star
entire.
Wars?
Oh,
Do you
okay. So
think
with the hype
do you
of
think
Star
it's
Wars, yeah.
do you think it's
Okay.
overhyped and people are going to come out thinking, oh well, that was pretty crappy?
Well, yes and no. So, take a step into my shoes. Been a massive Star Wars fan my whole life. Got like the Star Wars Funko Pop figures sitting on my PlayStation, stuff like that. Like, it's my entire childhood sort of thing. And I've watched a couple of trailers. I'm naturally going to be super hyped for it, like I really am. I'm trying to downplay my hype a little bit so I don't get disappointed. I'm going to come into that movie with super high expectations, so I'll probably naturally be disappointed a bit. But then you get people who are on such another level. I'm not like this, but people who will look at the trailers and analyze it, like freeze frame it, look in every sort of corner. I think the people who do that, which is becoming more and more common, they just really ruin the experience for themselves. They're either going to spoil things or, just come into the movie knowing everything about it. That's not really the whole point of a trailer, and I don't know, they're just ruining stuff for themselves. But there's naturally going to be so much hype for this movie because Star Wars is such a big cultural phenomenon. There's going to be that many people looking forward to it, unless you're Taron Owens.
I haven't
Um,
seen a single Star Wars. I've been criticized by many, many people for it, but
some would argue you haven't lived. Um,
Jesus, that's not nice.
you didn't have a childhood, man. But
My childhood was Pokemon and Digimon.
no, you had half a childhood with Pokemon.
That's accept. Hey, Digimon. Don't hate on the Digimon, man.
Yeah, I've never watched it. But in saying that, there's only been 3 trailers for Star Wars, and all the TV ads and stuff are straight out of those trailers, and we still know almost next to nothing about the movie from what Lucasfilm and the people who made the film have released, which is a really good thing. People are going to come into it not expecting a whole lot in terms of plot and things. But then there's other stuff like, for example, one of my favorite films of all time. It's called Warrior. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard of it.
No.
No, okay. Basically, the trailer for the movie. I saw the movie before I ever saw the trailer, but the trailer literally has the entire movie in it. Like, spoils everything. There are some trailers that'll just ruin stuff beforehand, so I try to avoid trailers for everything now.
When was that film released?
2011.
Okay, because I think it was like um, older films, and I mean like from the 90s. They were much worse, but it wasn't a big deal back then.
Yeah, people sort of weren't really as into stuff. Oh, not that they weren't as into stuff. They just weren't really nitpicky about spoilers. But then the internet came out, and you can say, I liked the Star Wars movie. And people are like, oh, spoiler, don't talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
you could say, oh, the special effects were great. It's like, oh, great, now I know there's good special effects. Thanks for ruining the experience. Like, people just get really butthurt quite easily on the internet now. But in saying that, there are those people who also do truly spoil the movie just in a forum, either intentionally or unintentionally. And that can
Oh,
really
sure.
piss people off too. Like, I don't know, the lead up to exciting things is the best and the worst of times.
Yeah.
That's sort of.
I mean, I had a mate that sort of read the Game of Thrones novels and would go into forums and with the whole intention of spoiling it for as many people as he could and try and set a record as to how fast he could get banned. So, people
Yeah.
find joy in it. People find joy in ruining this sort of stuff, but, we'll see what happens. There's definitely plenty of hype going around, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how well it's received.
Well, yeah. Well, for an example, look at episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which came out in 2000. So that was, I think it was nearly 20 years, maybe just over, since the last Star Wars movie before it. And people were that excited, exactly like they are now. Awesome trailers, people that hyped, don't know much about the movie. and then everyone who saw that at the cinema is going to say it was the biggest disappointment in a movie they've ever seen. So, it could very well happen again now, which I'm very conscious of. But yeah, that's hard for me not to be excited about this one.
Yeah, definitely. With that, I think it's about time we wrap things up with the trivia question, you think?
Go for it.
So, previously we were talking about Final Fantasy. Of course, each game has a different story, excluding, the Part 2s and, in 13's case, the Part 3. But in each game, there is one character that, in some form or another, his name appears. What is the name of this character? We've got Kain, Cloud, Sypha, or Ward. Sam, do you want to go first? Because you know nothing about Final Fantasy.
Well, I'm well aware of who Cloud is. He's the main hero of Final Fantasy VII, and he's the one who I played in Dissidia all the time. But I don't think he's in all of them. I feel like 7 was probably his debut. I'm probably wrong, though, because I literally know nothing about the franchise. So what were the other options?
We've got Sid, Kain, Sid, or Ward.
I'm going to go with Ward.
Ward?
Yep.
Okay.
Lock it in, Eddie.
Locked in. What about you, Joe?
I'm pretty boring because I know the answer.
Oh, fair enough. Go on. Give him the answer. Tell him how much he's lost.
It's Sid.
Beautiful. Yeah, Sid appears in pretty much every single game.
It's a different character though. Every time, it's just there's always a character called Sid.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty cool.
And I think isn't it sometimes spelt with an S and sometimes spelt with a C?
I think so.
That's probably from like translation or something.
Yeah, maybe a localization error.
Yeah.
I can't remember. From everyone I've looked at, he's called Sid with a C, but there might have been a few he's called there might have been a couple there with S's, depending on the language you're reading it in.
And I could be wrong, but what was the airship called in 7? Do you remember that?
The airship in 7, I can't remember.
Because I think that whenever there's an airship in Final Fantasy, it's always got the same name as well. But I could be wrong about that.
The High Wind?
Yes, the High Wind. Isn't there a High Wind in other Final Fantasies also?
Possibly. What was the one in... I know 10 has a ship. I'll look up 10. No, 10's just called the airship, apparently.
Okay. I could be wrong.
There might be another one called the High Wind. I haven't played too many of them to know. But anyway, I think that about wraps us up. Sam, where can we find you online?
You can find me on PSN with the PSN name Samuelnick. That's SAMUELNICH. Or you can find us on Twitter at ALAW Podcast, I believe it is. And Taryn, I believe you have your own new show to plug.
Yeah, indeed. So I've recently started an esports podcast under the same sort of name, Almost Awesome Esports. We're 4 episodes in. We've had a few special guests on there. Feel free to take a listen. We're on iTunes. We're also on Twitter. Well, I'm on Twitter at TarynOwens108. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, you can add me on PSN. My ID is Joe Rhymes with Mo. JoeRhymesWithMoe.
It does indeed.
Just let me know that you're a listener, and yeah, you can add me on there.
No worries. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was
So,
alright.
Taryn, I think for one episode of your esports podcast, we should have this debate that we've been talking about for months now.
Yes, indeed.
Obviously, your entire listener base is going to be on your side, but
We don't really have a listener base. I mean, I think we have double subscribers of this show, according to FeedBurner.
Oh, there you go.
We have 18, yeah.
How many does this show have?
14. But I think that's like way off because I look at it and it's like they're both like 11 of these are unknown, and like 1 is from iTunes somewhere, and that's like me.
Oh, okay.
1's from a Mac. So there's probably no listeners, but yeah, get you on for the esports is actually a sport.
It's not. Is it competitive gaming or is it esports? Competitive gaming.
I have to say I prefer competitive gaming.
Yeah.
Sports.
But why does it matter so much?
It doesn't. It's just an argument that it doesn't matter to me. It's just an argument I like to have with people because I like to argue.
Yeah. Well, I think you've had the argument on a previous episode, right?
Yeah.
And weren't
Sam
you
wasn't
saying
on that one
something
though,
like
so
weren't you saying something like snooker is not a sport?
yeah. Snooker, chess, fishing—they're all sports.
But do
They
you
should
think
be.
that they are sports, in your
I
opinion?
don't.
Technically, yes.
Yes, technically
But
they
in my
are. But
opinion,
do you feel that they are sports?
well,
I don't.
yeah, yeah. I guess so.
You feel that they are sports?
Well, snooker is obviously. They're
Okay.
sports of a different kind. They're like mentality sports.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, if chess is a sport, then Monopoly is a sport.
That's exactly right.
Oh.
And if Monopoly is a sport, esports,
Then
competitive gaming is a sport.
is Snap a sport?
It could be.
It's
The
at
way I
least
look
it
at it,
requires reaction times.
You're probably exerting yourself more in Snap than in competitive gaming.
No, not really. But
Just imagine Snap at the Olympics.
play Snap professionally. With the gold medal for Snap.
Tiddlywinks.
I do think one day
That
though.
actually is competitive, though, isn't it? That there are actually like Tiddlywinks leagues and stuff.
Okay, what is Tiddlywinks? That's my
I've
question.
never heard of Tiddlywinks. No.
Oh, okay, you basically got like these little plastic tokens, like coin-shaped tokens, and you have one on the table, and you put the other. You have to like YouTube this or something, but you have a token in your hand, and you press it down onto the edge of the token that's on the table, and you pull it back. You know, you're pressing down and pulling back until it leaps forward. You're gonna have to
I'm gonna have to
YouTube.
YouTube that one.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at
that
that.
made no sense.
I haven't heard of that one, to be honest.
Tiddlywinks.
Or just Google it.
Tiddlywinks.
Tiddlywinks, a game in which small plastic counters are flicked into a central receptacle by being pressed on the edge with a larger counter.
I
There
look
you
up
go.
Tiddlywinks and it gave me a dress shop. Okay.
Maybe you're spelling it wrong.
Dadson Play Center.
Trying to find out if you can actually play like competitive Tiddlywinks.
There we
Do you
go.
think?
There's a
Do you
whole
think that-
Wikipedia thing about it. Skill versus strategy and comparable games. Tiddlywinks. Tiddlywinks
go.
terminology.
Do you think that we'll ever see competitive gaming represented in, say, the Olympics?
Ooh, maybe it would make its own Olympics. Maybe there would be an E-Olympics. I could
I'd
see
like
that.
to see that. Yeah.
I could imagine that happening.
Have
But not-
the first person shoot a leg, bloody crap. What do you call them? The League of Legends genre, a MOBA, that one,
Over.
a MOBA leg, all that sort of stuff. That'd be cool.
And then every country sends its 3 best players.
Yeah. Let's get that going, Taryn.
What? What? I wasn't paying attention, sorry.
The competitive gaming Olympics.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Let's get it started.
Yep.
The
We're
first game
turning
we'll.
him, Sam. We're turning him. He didn't object to the name Competitive Gaming Olympics.
He didn't call it that.
I did.
He did.
The CGOs.
Oh,
I said
Oh.
E-Olympics, and then Sam said Competitive Gaming Olympics.
You're beating me while I'm not even paying attention. I'm adding like 2 other people on Skype to try and get set up interviews for next week.
Oh, right. Sorry, man. Or you could
I'm
call
like, not
them the E-Olympics. The E-Olympics.
Yeah, I don't know. Could have the argument for sure. Would you can join us one day, one night?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Have the
I
debate.
think we record either Monday or Tuesday nights. I think like after 10 o'clock.
Wow, both of those dates are horrible for me, but that's fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's all good.
Oh, we can do like same way I do with the others with all the other interviews I do. Just pick a time when we're both free and chuck it in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. You and I could just jump on sometime, record it, and then we can throw it in editing in one of your normal episodes.
Yeah. And I'm actually really enjoying editing though. Like I'm actually not doing too bad with it now. I've like got
Oh,
music cutting through everything, and it's actually really decent.
awesome.
So,
That one's the one we just did is probably going to be hard to edit because
yeah,
apparently I was robotic a lot.
yeah, Bradley's doing these ones, so it's fun.
Okay. Good on you, B-Rad.
Yeah.
Taryn, you managed to get through a whole episode without saying PC Master Race.
Oh no.
Oh, you didn't sign off with it.
No, I'm sure I said it there somewhere. I signed on.
I'm positive you didn't.
I'm sure I said it somewhere there. I know
You
I
did
started
not.
with fuck Konami, but
You didn't, I'm sure.
god damn it.
What have you done? We're going to have to...
That's the other topic we have to have at some point is console versus PC.
What?
Yes. Yes, I'll. Oh wait, no, I'll just say PC Master Race now, and Bradley edit this in somewhere. Thank you.
Oh, wait, we're
Beautiful.
still live. He's going to have to edit all this out. Lol.
Yeah, I record the end of it because then like last time I didn't. Someone said something extremely stupid. I think Warwick told me to kill myself multiple times.
Yeah, funny stuff you always got to put back in. But anyway, I'm
Yeah.
going to head off now, guys. Thanks for
I'm
recording.
also gonna head off. Good
We're
episode.
going to have to do it. Sorry?
Good episode. We're gonna have to try
It
and
was.
get it going again.
Definitely.
Gotta try
Thanks
set
for...
up. We'll try setting up the next time we do it. We'll try setting up a double ender, the same way we record the other one, where everyone records their own audio.
Yeah, that's how I used to do my old podcast.
Yeah, it like works so much better.
All right.
But I'll set all that up next time we do one.
No worries. Thanks for coming along, Joe.
Yeah, no problem. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
thanks
it.
for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Finally, it's taken us plenty of time to get you on here.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
should
it's
have
hard.
made note that it was your debut. I didn't even... Oh, man.
Oh,
I feel bad for that. I do apologise.
Hey, if Taron's gonna edit in PC Master Race somewhere, then he can edit in you saying in for his debut.
Coming in for his Almost Awesome podcast debut.
yeah. Edit
Maybe
that in
sound
there somewhere.
slow or something.
Anyway, I'm gonna head off. I will speak to you guys later.
All right.
See you, man. See you guys.